CJJ podcast number 7, here with Domenic Mazza. Dom, you're from Concord.
Yes.
And you are a baseball player. Obviously, you train with us at Optimum Athletes.
Slash golfer.
But let's just kind of jump into your story. You've got an interesting one, so take it away, man. Where you played high school, obviously?
Yeah. So I grew up in Concord. Went to Clayton Valley High School, which is known for having a good baseball program. My freshman year, I was on the freshman team, but I actually got brought up to varsity. I didn't play on the varsity team, but I was kind of a prospect for the high school. So the championship game, I got to go to the Oakland Coliseum
Cool.
and throw a bullpen on the A's field and stuff. And we ended up winning the championship that year and stuff, which was cool. And then my sophomore year, I was on the varsity team. We had a lot of older guys that went to D1 schools, Long Beach, Cal, all up and down California and some places. So I didn't pitch a whole bunch, but I got a decent amount of innings. And then my junior year, I was the number 1 starter on varsity and did really well. I think I had 10 wins or something with a 1-something ERA. And I played golf that year too, actually.
Really? In the spring
Yeah.
with baseball?
Mm-hmm. So I would start and then I would start one day of the week and then play in the golf match the other day of the week. As a freshman in high school, I was actually number 1 varsity for golf. So I got to do that my freshman year when I was playing on the freshman team too.
That's
I did both.
interesting.
And then senior year, I did well again, but I actually got hurt because my cousin, his name's Chris Mazza, he made it up to the big leagues with the Mets last year. He was in college at the time at Menlo College, and it was winter break, yeah. And he came, and we were doing double cuts, and so I was just on the mound, did a dry run, and he tossed one up, and it was a little out in front of him, and he went whoosh, and ripped one right into my ribs.
Oh my God!
And I missed the first month and a half of the season or whatever from that, which was actually a pretty
rocket.
Yeah.
Why didn't you catch it?
Well, first of all, he wasn't at home plate.
Oh, my
he was
God.
he was out a little bit, and then he threw it that way. So he was,
Just a
I don't
random
know,
ball.
halfway in between. So I didn't really have a chance. I just went like that, drilled me in the ribs.
That is brutal.
So missed a month and a half with a contusion is what they said. I didn't break a rib or anything, but it was messed up. Yeah.
How'd your coach take that? You're like, hey, so
my coach was there.
Oh.
It was a team practice, and he was
okay.
just back home because it was winter break for college already. Right. And so he was helping out. So everybody was there practicing on the team. Yeah. And
fine, guys.
He felt really bad, which I understand, but it was fine in the long run and stuff. But still had a good year. I think I was 4-2 with another 1 ERA or something when I came back. And then that summer, I played for the Danville Hoots, which is a good summer ball team. And we went to the Connie Mack World Series in 2010. And then 2012, that summer, we went to UC Santa Barbara, and we were doing a showcase or just a tournament down there and stuff. And that's when Coach Checketts, the head coach at Santa Barbara, saw me throw for the first time. And he said he liked what he saw and everything. I'm pretty sure I went 6 innings or something, did well. And then kind of got talking with him, started going over how much it would be to go to Santa Barbara and everything. And then decided to commit to UCSB a few weeks later. And I was just a recruited walk-on. I wasn't on scholarship. But went there my freshman year. We had...
Just really quick, did you have other offers from other schools, or is that...
So I was talking to Fresno State and Long Beach and other schools, but I hadn't actually had a scholarship offer from anywhere. everybody was just focusing on the financial aid part, which is what Santa Barbara did anyway, and telling me how much I would get from that. That way, it would be
Possible.
affordable. Yeah.
Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Seen that place?
So yeah. So Checkets told me about how they were turning the program around and everything, and it just sounded like a good fit. And so I ended up choosing there, and I'm pretty sure my freshman year, our recruiting class was like top 15, top 10 in the nation.
Wow.
We had a lot of good recruits, and that year we ended up making a regional. I think I threw the third most out of all the freshmen. I think I threw like 34 innings or something out of the
What
pen.
year was this?
This was 2013 season.
13?
Yeah.
Okay.
2013 season. I threw like 34 innings, had a 3.78 or something, 3.8, somewhere around there out of the pen, and did well. But I guess I should backtrack a little bit. Going into Santa Barbara, coming out of high school, I was upper 80s, like mid to upper. I was 85, 88 or so. And I got to Santa Barbara and was doing really well in the fall. Checkets had originally told me like he saw me as a potential Saturday starter that year and stuff like that, or just a weekend. And then he wanted to help me try and increase my velocity. And he just tried to incorporate my legs more and had me turn into a drop and drive kind of guy. And that didn't work for my body. And I ended up starting.
Or for anyone.
I started throwing like 78 miles an hour.
Really?
Yeah, and I wasn't even throwing 80 miles an hour.
Was he at all worried about that? Was he like?
Oh, I mean, nobody was happy with it.
Was he like, what the heck?
Did you say, hey, you ruined me?
No, I didn't say you ruined me. But he did help me develop my changeup better. Like, my changeup had always been good, but he had us do these things called girl throws where you stick the opposite leg in front, and it just pronates. Yeah, that's what he called them. But it just gets you to pronate earlier, which I did on my changeup, and so then it just got that kind of side spin and died, and it just looked like a fastball though.
Yeah.
And so I was throwing 78 mile an hour fastball, and I was throwing a 69 mile an hour changeup.
Really?
And I just threw the changeup all the time, and nobody could hit it. So that's kind of what got me through that year. And then, so it wasn't a bad year, but I was throwing 80
Velo
at my hardest. Yeah.
Weird,
so it wasn't good.
You experienced a velo dip.
Yeah.
Rather than what they wanted.
Yeah. And then so I was like, I don't know what to do. That summer, I went up to Washington and played up in the
West Coast League?
West Coast League, yeah.
Was it the Walla Walla Sweets?
No, I played for the Black Bears, the
Black
Cowlitz Black Bears.
Okay.
And me and my roommate up there, we just went to the gym every day, and I was just trying to get strong and put on some muscle and everything to try and throw harder again. And
I take it you didn't deadlift.
Huh? I did not deadlift. Squatted almost every day, and I got up to over 4 plates and like was really strong.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah, and like I was probably the strongest had ever been right there.
Right.
And I started throwing 84 again, topping out
Coming
at like
back
85.
You're cruising
And
back that way.
yeah, I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm so much stronger now than I was, and the strength should translate to more than what I had been before and stuff. But I ended up going that whole year being like 84, 85, and Checkets is big on just throwing strikes, and so I threw
Oh my god.
all the strikes I could basically.
Yeah.
I threw like 50 innings, and I think I had 10 walks, which isn't great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, no.
But I had like a 4.8 ERA or something.
Right, something's not good.
It wasn't good.
84 down the dingle. Here you go.
Yeah, and
Well, at that
so,
point, had you guys got rid of the drop and drive snare? Do you remember, or was
I was still doing it. Like my
Right.
body got so used to it that I
you
didn't
were
know
still
how
doing
to.
it because that's what he was
Yeah.
giving you the.
Well, I didn't know how to break it, and then so I was like, I have to change something. I have to go back to the way I was. So that summer, I changed my leg lift, and I just started kicking my legs straight out vertically, and so like I didn't have any bend whatsoever, and it just changed up my mindset again. And that summer I went to the Northwoods and played for the Wisconsin Rapids. And I threw a no-hitter there.
Really?
I started throwing 86 to 88 again and had like a 1.4 ERA that summer. Or that,
Like a reset to your body and just kind of like go
it
back
just
to your
kind of
roots.
it just
flow.
felt me get back to where I was, and then
Right.
the little velo helped me just be confident throwing
some barrel.
inside again.
Yeah.
And so then that established everything else for me.
Your mindset was way more confident.
Yeah.
You had more conviction in your pitches.
Yeah. And so I remember, and I had my catcher from Santa Barbara. He went to the same team with me,
that helps.
Campbell
That's
Ware. And so I remember he told me that Checketts had called him and was like, "So what happened? Like, what changed with him?"
He stopped doing everything you told him to do.
And so he was just like, he's just pitching really well and stuff. And so I went back to Santa Barbara again that year and still had the same leg lift, kicking it straight out and everything. And I was kind of Sunday, Tuesday starter, normally Tuesday, and then whenever somebody needed a break, I would hop in on the weekend. But we played really good competition on Tuesdays. One of the main reasons I got drafted was because I pitched against USC, who was undefeated at the time when I pitched against them. And I went 7 2/3 against them, 1 run.
There you go.
And so that's when Chuck Fick, the Giant Scout, originally first saw me. And so I kind of got put on their radar. And then a month later, so we played USC again at home, and I went like 7 innings, 2 runs against him, I think. Yeah, pretty good again. And he saw both of those games. I actually remember, I didn't know who he was at the time.
Right.
I was doing my bands out in the outfield, and somebody drove by and was like, "Hey, lefty, you still left-handed?" Just like joking. And I was like, "Yeah, thanks." And then, and it was, and it was Chuck Fick, and I didn't know at the time, but it was pretty cool. And then I ended up doing well that game or whatever, and he saw me.
Right.
And I was talking a little with the Cubs, and we had a bunch of teams there looking at Santa Barbara just because we had Dylan Tate, who was the 4th overall pick.
I remember this guy.
Yeah, he was the 4th overall pick. He made it to the big leagues with the Orioles.
And this is what, 2015?
This was 2015.
He wore goggles.
Yeah, he used to. I don't know if he still does.
Kept doing it. I remember
Yeah.
that, yeah.
But so we had a bunch of scouts, which was a huge plus for me, just being able to exposure. Yeah. And then we had Justin Hakame, who was also a 5th rounder, and then we also had Shane Bieber, who was young at the time, but was an All-Star this year, the MVP of the All-Star game.
So with the Indians, yeah.
Yeah. And so we had a lot of good talent, and that was our weekend rotation. We
And
had Dylan
they had
Tate,
you.
5th rounder, and then I was the Tuesday guy, and I would mix in. But we had a great year again. We hosted a regional that year, but unfortunately, Santa Barbara just got lights this year, so now they can do more stuff. But when I was there, we didn't have lights, so we had to go down to Lake Elsinore and host our regional down there, which is high A for the Padres.
So you guys hosted a regional at a different location.
Yeah, and the worst part about it was San Diego State was in our regional.
That's probably closer to that, right?
Oh, it's
So they
30 minutes. So
they might as well
they
host
had
it.
all
the whole
fans.
stadium.
But Virginia was actually in our regional too. They were the 2 seed, and they ended up winning the whole thing. So we had a tough regional for sure. San Diego State was our 4 seed, and they had over 40 wins that season. So it was a well fought regional. But so that was college.
So you got drafted after your junior year.
Yeah.
Was the next year the year they went to the Super Regional? Or they won the Super Regional against
Yes,
Louisville?
they went to the.
So you missed it by 1 year?
2016, they went to the College World Series. Yeah.
They also
missed it by 1 year.
what was the first baseman's name?
Austin Bush.
Austin Bush. He was pretty good too, right? Didn't he get drafted?
He got drafted by the Braves, and he played in low A with the Braves. I'm pretty sure that he got released now.
Okay.
I'm not positive, but I know that in 2016 he went off and
and you guys,
bunch
you
of
probably
homers.
missed him, but Cohen, right, the catcher that hit the walk up.
Yeah.
Were you there when he was there? Or was
He was. I believe he redshirted my junior year
okay.
there.
Because he bounced back to Hope.
Yeah.
We played against him.
Nice.
But and then you also played with Brody Weiss for a year, right?
Yeah.
So that was he bounced back to Westmont. So small world. But so you get drafted after junior year by the Giants.
Yeah.
What round?
22nd round.
22nd
And
round.
I'm curious, what was your velo at that time? Was it up from the Northwoods, or was it still 86?
No, I was still 86, 88.
Okay, so you're still up. You weren't
Yeah.
like 91, 93 at this
No.
point. Okay, I was just.
Yeah,
I got you.
I was
So you
just
were up, but
I just had good off speed and
there's
could
a lot
pitch.
more that goes into it.
Yeah.
And
But
you're
I
left-handed.
never, I never
Still
had
left-handed,
the
lefty.
velo that was sitting 91, 93,
Right,
anything like
right.
that. So I get drafted though. I go to rookie ball with the Giants and did really well through like 25 innings after I got there. Had like a 1.2 ERA in
not
rookie
bad.
ball. Yeah.
Is that with Kaiser? Volcanoes?
Salem Kaiser
Yeah,
is
that's
short season.
A, right?
Oh,
So after I threw the 25 innings there, the season was supposed to end. They sent me up to Salem though, because they were trying to
Salem,
make a playoff
baby.
push. So I went up there and I threw 4 innings. Didn't give up a run. And
For the
then-
Twitter fans out there, was Eric Sim on the team at the time?
Yes.
Erickson was there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so did well there again, and then unfortunately lost in the playoffs. Year ended, and then went into the off season. First off season I had really in the last, I don't know, since I was a little kid, really,
Yeah.
at least 6-7 years. I had never really taken time off, and so then coming back throwing after taking a couple months off, I started off fine. It was normal. And then all of a sudden one day, I mean, I was playing catch out in the driveway or whatever, or street with my dad.
Uh-huh.
And one day I just didn't know where the ball was going. It started flailing on me over to the arm side high, and I almost hit a car, and I was like, oh boy. And then I just started thinking about it more and more, and then I missed him
Snowball.
again, and I missed again, and I was like, all right, we're done.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to break a window or do something. Next day, went out there, tried to throw again, and I just lost it. I didn't know what was going on.
Would you say you had the yips?
Yes.
Wow.
I would say I had the yips.
Interesting.
And
this
then
was right after just a long break.
the long break, yeah. It was
Oh.
like all my muscle memory,
That's
everything just kind of,
What was your biggest fear?
for the yips, honestly, I was just embarrassed.
Was it a bunt that you had to throw to first base?
Well, that's super strange because like
No.
after your first break ever, you all of a sudden go outside and you're just playing catch with your dad, which
Yeah.
is like the first time you ever threw a baseball.
Yeah.
And you can't do it.
Yeah.
Now, how
pretty
long did it
strange.
take you to kind of get over that?
A while, because the whole off season I was dealing with it. I remember I went to a few like community colleges to throw with a couple guys and do this stuff, and every time playing catch, as soon as I like started throwing it hard, I was like comfortable that I could throw it in the vicinity he could catch it. And like for throwing strikes and stuff, I was fine being in around the zone. Like I wasn't going to throw it to the backstop or anything. But as far as playing catch and just throwing it from me to a person
Just not
standing
having
up, it wasn't going to happen.
Really?
And
been
so
there. I've been there.
playing catch, I would start off and I would just hope, just cross my
Get in
fingers,
there.
close my eyes, hoping that it's going to be somewhere
Somewhere in
in his. Yeah, I just was like, we need as much space as possible.
Four.
Let's go down here. But it was a rough time for sure. That whole off season, I was dealing with it, and I got to spring training with the Giants and in March. And the first day we were doing PFPs and stuff, we were doing bunt plays, and then we did pickoffs, and I had to throw pickoffs to first base. And I'm sitting there, and I'm.
Did you tell me this is when you're kind of like hiding at first? And
Oh
then
yeah,
like,
I was sitting back there, and I was like, please just end it before I have to go. And there's like 3 people left. I'm like, all right, everybody's gonna go. So I run out there, or whatever, and I'm hoping I can just throw it to home, and then maybe just throw it
The
wherever.
play goes elsewhere, yeah.
Yeah. And then they put on the sign to throw it to first. Taking a deep breath, I come set, I throw it over there. I spike this thing 30 feet short of him, and it
No way.
bounces over. Yeah, and he misses it. So they're like, I'm trying to run off. I'm trying to get out of there. They go, do it again. I'm like, oh, shit.
I have the yips.
Yeah. And so I go back out there, and I'm like, all right, all right, just don't spike it. Boom! Airmail it to right field. And this thing's like 20 feet over his head. It's like over where the runner would have been, like 20 feet that way. And I was just like, yep.
Did anyone say anything?
So right after that, I walked up to the pitching coach for Augusta, which I was on field 4, which is the low A group. And I go, I have the yips.
You say that?
Yeah, I walked straight up to him and I go, I have the yips.
That's probably not what you want to hear as a pitching coach.
No, but it was honestly the best thing that I could have done, because if I would have just went about it and kept trying to do the same thing and fixing it myself, it would have never got better.
Right. You free yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So I went out there and he told me come with him or whatever. We went out into the outfield and he just set up a few cones and got his glove or whatever, and he just would have a ball set up at the cone. He said, just run over, grab it, and chuck it to me. And so I would just run over, pick it up, and throw it to him. And I was hitting him in the chest because I was throwing it hard.
Well, yeah,
and it's just, And so I started to build some confidence there. And then I also talked with the psychologist for the Giants, because I was like, obviously, I'm not right in the head right now. I got the yips and I'm scaring myself.
Let me tell you about the driveway.
So then he kind of gave me some stuff to try and help with it and just make me feel more confident out there and stuff.
Right.
But I was embarrassed for the longest time, because I was like, I'm a professional baseball player and I wouldn't be able to hit that door right now from 10 feet away.
Well, and also being a guy with a good command your whole life.
Exactly. Like I was never the velo guy. But surprisingly, my velo was actually up when I had the yips. I hit 91 when I had the yips and stuff.
You kind of, I think, probably realized, like, hey, when I throw it harder, I'm more around the zone. I'm not thinking. I'm just throwing the most hard as I can. It kind of ends up somewhere in that hula hoop.
Which wasn't a good thing, though, because I still didn't have confidence, and the hitter could tell that I didn't have confidence. So I was getting
I saw you throw into right field.
Guys on first base with 30-foot leads. Pick off.
But so you go to the psychologist. Did that help out, the psychologist that you went to?
Yeah.
Guy or the lady?
He helped out for a little bit, but definitely I just think I kind of just changed my mindset. And instead of focusing on like, oh my God, how did I just throw that over there? It was like, oh, I just hit him in the chest 5 in a row. I missed one. Yeah, I normally would never miss him playing catch for maybe a whole year.
Right.
But I just hit him 5 times in a row. And I just started to change that mindset. And I was
positivity.
I was like, okay, today was good. Instead of thinking about the 2 bad ones, I was like, I hit them 90% of the time today. And so I just kept building on that. For the next month or so that I was in extended, basically. And then I was throwing there, and in extended I was throwing a decent amount of innings, but I wouldn't say I was doing particularly well. Like I still had the yips.
So that also carried over to just general pitching, because you said in your bullpens you were kind of around the zone.
Oh yeah, like I was like normally I'm. If you want it inside, it's gonna be within this window of where I want it. And I was basically just having a blank slate up there, just trying to hit something in the strike zone.
Like, so your focus changed from, like, I guess, precision pinpoints, you know that feeling when you're locked in, to like broad.
Well, I mean, I was still, I think I was trying, I was still like focused on that spot, but my actual target was way broad.
Isn't that weird how that happens? Yeah. And coaches will just assume, like, you gotta focus. Like, I swear I am, but it's just not going.
It's just my body's not doing it.
It's bizarre,
ball is not going where I want it to go.
Yeah. And so extended kind of just built me up to have enough confidence. And then they sent me to low A in Augusta, Georgia. And I went over there. My first outing was against the Red Sox. And their low A stadium's built just like Fenway, which is pretty cool. And I remember I went 4 2/3. I want to say I think I gave up 2 runs. I gave up 10 hits though, and there were like 6 infield hits mixed with ground balls in the hole. I think there were like
frustrating
3 or 4 infield hits, and then 3 like just barely making it through the hole.
Right.
And I was just like, so I had runners on constantly the whole time, and having the yips and just trying to come out of it. Like I was nervous, and I was just trying to make sure I made it through the outing and stuff. And only giving up the 2 runs kind of gave me a little confidence. And then I kind of just kept building on that again. And I finished the year. I threw like 85 innings in low A that year, and had like a 3.7, which isn't bad for having the yips. So I was happy with that year, for where I felt like I was mentally and just where my game was, basically. Went back to spring training the next year, building on just everything. Felt better about not having the yips and kept progressing. But those thoughts still, even today, come into my head when I'm playing catch. If I miss one, I'm like, oh, Jesus, let's lock it in right here.
Yeah, not again.
But
throw one righty.
Yeah. It was just, I just kept building my confidence, and then I just kind of, I guess it wasn't the best way to look at it, but I was like, I need to kind of get back to where I was. But that, I just wanted to get back to where I was in the sense, not like velo-wise, I always have wanted to build on that.
Right.
But I just was so confident back then that I could just put the ball where I wanted, that I was trying to build up to that again. And so I got to that point, like, over the next off season, like I was able to play catch and throw and do everything, and was able to actually start spotting up again relatively well.
Like overall,
and so this is
better.
So this was 2017, and I was hoping to go to high A, obviously, and get a promotion, but they told me I was going to go to low A again, and I was going to start opening day. And at the time, that was when Tim Tebow was getting signed by Mets. Yes.
Okay.
Tim Tebow was getting signed by the Mets, and everybody in spring training, after they announced that I was going to be opening day starter there, was like, "You're going to give up a bomb to Tim Tebow," and I was like, "Dude, shut the F up." Like, I don't want to think about that and stuff. But I just, like, subconsciously, it could have been in my mind, but I wasn't thinking about anything like that. But it was relatively warm in spring training in Arizona that whole month of March and everything, mid-70s, maybe 80 and stuff. We get to Columbia, which is where the Fireflies were, and it was 40 degrees that night with a 30-mile-an-hour wind. I was freezing, and I couldn't feel the ball. I couldn't feel my hand. And I didn't know where the ball was going again. I felt like I had the yips all over again.
Yeah.
And I'm warming up in the bullpen, and it went well. And then I get out there for the first inning, and I'm throwing the ball, and I'm going, I don't know where it's going. I have a 1-2-3 first inning, though. I go, thank God, I just need to repeat that about 5 more times.
Just keep
and
going.
we'll be all right. I go out there for the next inning, and I still didn't really know where the ball was going. I think I gave up a couple runs that inning, and then I went back out there for the third inning, and Tebow was up that inning, which didn't mean anything to me. I didn't really care. People had told me to hit him. People told me that I would give up a bomb to him, all that stuff. I was just out there. I was just trying to pitch.
Competing.
I'm just trying to pitch and get him out.
Yeah.
And so I remember off the bat, I think I threw ball one up and in a little bit, which wasn't on purpose or anything.
This is his first at bat.
Yeah, his first minor league AB. And then I threw a strike. I think he fouled one off. And then, I mean, I was all over the place. And then I was supposed to throw one down and in. And I threw it a little up and away. And he's obviously a big dude with some strength.
Yeah.
And he connected on it for sure. I thought it would just be a double that hit the wall or whatever, but it kind of just kept flying.
Just kept going.
And the wind kind of just carried it just enough to where it hit the railing just above the fence, and then ricocheted to the center fielder, and the center fielder relayed it into second. And so Tim Tebow stopped on second base thinking it was a double. And then the umpire was like, "It's a home run."
You're like, "Oh, you ratted me out."
And then so he hit the home run off me. And then I remember.
But your teammates had a field day with that one.
Oh, my teammates from Santa Barbara, some of them sent me stuff that was messed up.
Yeah.
But
haters.
It was fine. Like, I wasn't that worried about it. I've never been like a huge social media guy or anything like that. But my teammates in Augusta were showing me Snapchat. They were like, dude, you're on ESPN, you're on this.
Bro, you're everywhere.
You were everywhere.
But you're on the bad
And
news.
I was like, cool. Like, I was on the Dan Patrick show. They called me about it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
They called you?
They called me, and
What
I had
did
an
they
interview.
say?
I mean, they just asked. They were like, so, I wasn't pitching
You gave
to
a home run to Tim Tebow? You're
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
I did. What do you want?
Did you face him again that game, though?
No.
No?
Because I only went 2 2/3.
Did you face him again in your career?
Nope.
Or no?
He's slugging $4,000 off.
When you say he has ownage on you.
Technically,
Based on
yes.
stats.
But if I was to face him again, I think I would do just fine.
Yeah.
So to be fair,
Your
was
wrist
this
is
also the year that you did something that not a lot of people have done?
Yes. So
Don't want to steal your thunder. But
2 weeks later, I was starting in Lexington, Kentucky, and I remember just a normal day or whatever. Took my normal nap before my start and stuff.
I told you.
Yes.
And then went out there, and in my bullpen, my slider it was supposed to be a cutter, but I called it a slider because it was a little slower, but it was actually moving pretty well that day, and it was like 83, which throwing 86 to 88, that's more like a cutter. But it was moving kind of a substantial amount. I went out there, and first inning, I think I struck somebody out, had a 1-2-3 inning, and it was good, and I just was throwing it. Normally my changeup's my best pitch, but I just kept throwing it that game. And my catcher and I told him I wanted to establish in early to these guys, and then until they proved that they could do it or hit it, like, stay there. And the first pitch he called that game was a fastball outside. I shook him off, and then he went fastball in. And I never shook him off again the rest of the game because he kept going in and mixing in off speed and everything. And then about the 6th inning, nobody had gone on base. I'm pretty sure I struck out like 4 in a row in between the 5th and 6th inning combined. And I was feeling good, and everybody just kind of was leaving me alone at this point, and I knew what was happening. And what was going on. And then so I went out there for the 7th, gave up a shot to right field that I thought was potentially going to get caught, or potentially going to get down, I mean. But my right fielder made a great diving play to catch it.
Oh, yeah.
There's always one.
And then in the 8th inning, we were winning 8-0 or something at this point, and I have a perfect game going. And Kelvin Beltre hits a home run and like stands there and watches it as it's going out. And we all thought maybe it was going to be foul, but it was fair by like 30 feet. And I'm not sure who was pitching for Lexington, but they didn't like that he kind of like watched it. And so he was chirping it. Kelvin going around third base, and then all of a sudden a fight breaks out.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So the bench is clear, and people are throwing punches and doing all this stuff. And Rapata, the pitching coach, tells me you better not move or whatever. And so I'm sitting on the bench, and everybody's out there, and I'm standing up. I'm like watching.
Let me at him.
Guys, I have a perfect game going. Get back in the
And then so everything clears. Like, nobody got hurt or anything like that. But
just feelings.
There were the umpires. The umpires were like going through this whole thing about who's getting tossed, all this stuff.
God knows how long that takes.
So next thing I know, 30 minutes have passed.
Jeez.
And I'm going, oh boy. Like,
what inning is this now?
This is the 8th.
Oh my God.
And
nightmare.
This is the top of the 8th. And so I got bad thoughts coming into my head. I'm like, oh, it was stupid, and I told myself this, but I was like, in my head, I was telling myself, oh, now I have an excuse if I don't do it. And I had all these things, and I was like, why would I want to think that way? Like, what do I want to accomplish here? I want to throw a perfect game. Like, stop thinking about it that way.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just changed my mindset again and got locked back in. And I went back out there in the 8th and had like 4 new defenders behind me. So almost everybody that was everybody that was in the lineup or on like the ready list and everything, almost everybody got to play in the game, which was actually pretty cool. But yeah, we had a few people get tossed, and so we had new people in the field.
Yeah.
Ended up making it through that inning, and then we had a quick top of the 9th, and I went back out there for the bottom of the 9th, and I think I threw 5 pitches in the bottom of the 9th. And they hit a fly ball to center, or a fly ball to right, actually, a ground ball to third, and then they first pitch for the last guy, routine fly ball to center.
It's the lefty winds. Here it is, and it's a swing and a fly ball into short right center field. And it's going to be caught, and it is caught by Fulmer, and Mazza has pitched a perfect game. A perfect game, 27 up and 27 down for Domenic Mazza. He and his teammates celebrate near the mound. A masterpiece tonight by Domenic Mazza.
Perfect game goes on.
Yep.
That's
and
crazy.
So everybody rushed the mound or whatever. I mean, it was awesome. One of my my roommate at the time, Jeff Burke, I watched the video. I didn't hear him at the time, but he was like, "Fuck Tim Tebow."
Redemption, baby.
Yeah. And so it was funny. And so like watching the video of him saying that and yelling it out on the middle of the field and everything was hilarious.
What position was he?
But he's a pitcher as well.
Oh, so he was just
he was he was in the bullpen.
Is this video still on YouTube?
I'm sure you could find it somewhere. Yeah.
I've seen
with the audio.
I don't know.
I've never seen that.
You can't hear the audio. You could only see his mouth, and then he said he had told me what he said or whatever. So that's how I pieced it together. But it was a fun night for sure. We went out and celebrated afterwards.
Of course.
Probably not a lot of memory from that night.
I remember everything.
It was deleted.
But
so I know that there's been around 30, maybe less than 30 perfect games in the majors. Do you know by chance how many were in the minors?
I don't know about all of the minors, but I know in the Southern Atlantic League that was the first and only perfect game.
There you go, dog.
Yeah,
that's tight.
Yeah.
So that was 2017.
That was 2017. Yeah, that was April of 2017.
And you go on to have a good year?
Yeah, I went on.
You're freaking promoted?
Yeah, at the end of the year, I got promoted. I threw 3 complete games that year, 2 shutouts. My second shutout was against the Yankees low A team, which was one of the better ones in the league. And I gave up, I want to say I gave up a hit or something in the first, and then maybe a hit in the second, and then retired 20 to lead off the second, and I think I retired 25 straight to end that game.
Hell of a performance.
Yeah, and so that was another highlight for the year. And I did have 4 starts that weren't good that year, but all my other starts I had basically a 1.7 ERA.
Right.
But I had a 3 ERA in low A that year in 120 innings, and then I got the call to go up to high A. And so I was excited about that, finally coming back home to San Jose. And I got on the plane, flew over here. And normally I've had back problems in the past, and normally it's my lower back. But I flew all the way from Augusta or whatever over to San Jose. Yeah, and I land, and I'm like carrying all my luggage and everything, and I get to the hotel room, and I wake up the next morning, and the middle of my spine is all stiff, and I'm like, oh boy.
Here we go.
And I was like, maybe it's a good thing. Like, my hips can still rotate better now and stuff. And I go out and I start playing catch, and I'm like, oh my God. And it wasn't to the point where I couldn't pitch, but it definitely wasn't comfortable.
Ideal, yeah.
But the first game in high A, I didn't think I threw bad. I ended up giving up. I went 5 innings or something, gave up like 7 runs against Visalia, but I didn't understand the strike zone whatsoever. The umpire literally the strike zone was the width of my knee.
What?
Like I would throw it on the white, like by this much, wouldn't get the call. I was like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. So I just was throwing everything down the middle, curveball, change, everything, but it was all right down the middle because I wasn't getting anything else, and I just kept falling behind the count. Yeah. And so they were just hitting double down the line, ground ball through the hole, all this stuff, and I just was battling my way through it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it if that's the strike zone here. Yeah. And then my next outing, I did better. We had a couple errors in the first inning, I think, and I ended up going 6 innings though, 3 runs. I think 2 were earned. So it was a lot better than the first outing. And the strike zone was normal. I was like, okay, I can still play baseball. Right. I can do this. Yeah. And then the year was over after that, so I only had those 2 starts in high A. And then, so 2018, I show up to spring training in February. I like to get there early and just get situated. And so I'm there, and we're working out and everything. And then I had been a no spinal load guy ever since I got drafted in 15 with the Giants.
No spinal load?
Yeah, so I didn't do deadlifts or squats or anything.
This was because what's the guy's name?
Akazuki
looked at you, right?
Yeah.
And you had like no space.
So yeah, so when I first got drafted, they got MRI on my elbow, shoulder, and back because I had back problems in college, and everything was good with the arm, but they saw my back had some degeneration and wasn't necessarily.
And what did he tell you?
He told me I had an okay back for a mid-40-year-old man.
And you're a professional young.
And you were
and I was
21?
Athlete. I was 2018. I was 23.
23
when he told me that. Yeah.
And didn't he also say you had the second worst?
He said he had only seen one back worse than mine ever, and it was Vogelsong's. But so I was like, okay.
He said should we get traded or something?
Yeah, he said if you were in the bigs right now, I'd probably recommend that you get traded.
Like, cool, thanks.
Just for health reasons and stuff, which I was like, okay. But he's a very honest guy, which is a good thing. Right. And so it was, I guess, good to hear that because it gave me some reasoning of why my back would just spasm out on me, and I didn't understand it before. Right. And so when the Giants found that out and I stopped doing deadlifts and squats and everything, my back felt good all the way up until basically the plane flight over to San Jose. And then I don't know if that was just carrying the luggage or what happened, but the middle of my back just kind of spasmed up. But other than that, like, my back had been good for the last 3 years at this point, which was great. But in 2018, I get to spring training and they have deadlifts on my program. And so I talked to them. I'm like, I'd prefer not to do these. My back's been healthy. Like, I don't want to risk doing something to put that in jeopardy and stuff like this. And we're going back and forth. He's like, just try it. Like, we want you to.
He was a new trainer, right?
Yeah, he was a new trainer that like didn't really know me, and I told him that I had been a no spinal load guy and everything. And so I asked him to go talk to the head trainer, and he walked in there and comes back out, and he says he just told me to have you try it. And so I was like, okay, like.
I'm telling you.
I don't want to, but I will. So they have 2 plates on there, just 225. I do 5 reps, and like nothing hurt. It didn't feel bad, but it didn't feel good. So I was like, I told him it wasn't good, it wasn't bad. So he was like, all right, just stay there and do it again, like do another set. And I was like, okay. So I did 2 more reps, and the second rep, I dropped the weight. I go, something's wrong. And my back just started literally seizing up right there. I started becoming extremely stiff. I couldn't move. Next thing I know, I couldn't move. I couldn't lift my right leg.
Whoa. Scary.
Yeah. And so got an MRI on my back, had an extruded disc that was pushing against my sciatic nerve, which shoots all the way down your leg. Right. And so that's why I couldn't lift my right leg. And then, so ended up missing half of 2018 because of that, bless you, and rehabbing it. I got an epidural, which is what they give pregnant women. They gave me one of those, and it didn't do anything for me the first time. I didn't feel any benefits. So I got a second one. It started to help a little bit. I could lift my right leg a little bit more, and I could sleep a little better. Sleep was not good because it was just radiating down my leg the whole night, so I just couldn't get comfortable ever. And then finally, one of the other trainers says, have you ever thought of doing traction, which is a decompression treatment for your back? And I was like, no, but I'd love to try it. Like, give anything a shot right now, because they said if I got a third epidural and it didn't work, surgery was the option, the only option. And I obviously don't want to have back surgery at 23 years old. So we did the traction, and I went to the chiropractor's office. They strapped me into this machine, and it just basically has a cable that pulls, and you're hooked in under this thing, and you're laying flat, and it just spreads you out basically. And after the first treatment, it's only 15 minutes, and they do it at a certain weight, and then they increased each time. But after the first treatment, I was like, I can lift my right leg again.
So is that just like basically pulling your spine? Just
so it just strapped around my waist here, and then I'm hooked in under my armpits, so it's just pulling my lower half away from my upper half and just kind of giving my disc space to kind of go back in. And so it just kind of allowed the disc to move away from the nerve, and I was finally able to lift my leg again. And I was like, there's hope for me. And so I started doing that 3 times a week for 15 minutes or whatever. I would go into the chiropractor's office. And it just kept getting better and better and better. And so then I started doing more movements in the gym again, and strengthening everything, and then finally progressed into throwing again, and then built up my throwing. And then finally it was right around the All-Star break, and they sent me to San Jose again. So they sent me to high A, and I wasn't going to start right off the bat, so I came in. We had 2 pitchers, Logan Webb, who made it up with the Giants last year.
Sacramento boy.
Yeah. And he was like on an innings limit, so he would go 3 innings. And then, so in the beginning, I think I went 3 innings after him, and we would just kind of piggyback. And I started off really well. Had like a 1.8 ERA for my first 5 appearances or so.
Right. Not too shabby.
Yeah. And so then I started starting again, and actually going deeper. And I was still doing well. And I kind of got some information told to me that I kind of wasn't going to move anywhere, just because my velo wasn't where it needed to be. Or like nothing about me jumped off the pages.
Were you still like 86 to 88?
Yeah, I mean,
up to 90.
86, 89-ish.
Okay.
And I kind of just let that affect me in the wrong way, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, if I'm pitching so well, and I can obviously prove I can get outs and stuff, like, why can't I be tested at higher levels and stuff?
So they were saying velocity was one of those reasons.
Yeah, and then so I kind of just lost where I wanted to be at that time, and just kind of got sidetracked and ended up not doing great the next couple outings. And then my ERA was at like a 3.7 for going into my last start of the year, and I had like 75 innings at this point after the All-Star break, which wasn't bad.
Right.
And I remember, like, I just wanted to finish the year good, because in San Jose the ball flies in all of high A, so a 3.7 ERA is actually pretty good there and stuff. But I knew I had better goals than that. Like, I wanted to be lower, so I went into the day hoping to just kind of finish strong and be confident going into the off season and everything. And my first couple innings went fine. I think I gave up a run. And then the third inning, I went over to cover first base, and my first baseman called me off, and I stopped, and I was like, oh shit. My back started tightening up on me, and the inning was over, thankfully, or whatever. So I go into the dugout, and I'm sitting down, and it's kind of just getting tighter and tighter, and I'm like, well, I don't want to finish with a 3-inning last outing, and I don't want to be hurt going into the off season either. So I go back out there for the fourth, and I strike out 2 and get a fly ball or whatever. I was like, okay, I can do this. And then went out for the fifth, gave up a couple runs, and then ended up giving up a 3-run homer in the sixth. Really? So I gave up 5 runs in the next 2 innings, and 7 runs total or whatever. And my ERA ended up being a 4.5 after that. And so I was disappointed and kind of just worried about where I was going to be for next year.
You were saying something about the other day when you hurt your back, all of a sudden your release point was further back and you weren't getting through stuff and you were pitching not fully.
So that was the thing. The whole year, my numbers weren't bad, but I had given up a lot more hits than I had previously. And it was kind of like my YIP numbers. I had given up a lot more hits, and my strikeouts were down from the other year and everything, just because I wasn't confident locating as well. Yeah. But this time it wasn't I was still confident locating, but my extension used to be 6 feet, and now it was 5 feet. So there was a whole nother foot of where they could see the ball, and I just wasn't getting the normal movement that I had, and so that was something that I was also worried about. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever kind of be back there. Yeah.
So you get through 2018.
Yeah.
The 4.5.
Yeah.
And then,
well, that off season, my back still flared up on me. So I called them. They sent me down to Dr. Watkins in LA, who's supposed to be the best back specialist for athletes and for everybody. So I go down there, I see him, they get another scan on me and all this stuff to make sure I don't have any stress fractures or anything like that. Otherwise, they were going to say, I think, that I needed surgery again. Luckily, everything came back positive. Okay. He gave me this core program to start doing, basically to help kind of open things up in my back and just take stress off my back by engaging my core more consistently. Yeah. And so I started doing this core program, and it's a long, thorough process. It's to do the whole thing. There's different levels. It's level 1 through 5, and to do everything on level 5, it's probably an hour and 30-minute program.
Sheesh.
And
you're still doing parts of that today, right?
Yeah, I still do the whole thing. I just don't do everything on level 5. The first exercise is dead bugs. And level 5 is doing it for 15 minutes straight.
Holding a dead bug?
Moving your arms and for 15 minutes straight. I'm like, I don't know who can do this.
You need 15 seconds?
The stick bug.
But so I do that still, but I do it for 3 minutes with a physio ball in between that I'm putting pressure on. I do that. Yeah, I do it for 3, take a minute off, and then I do another 2 minutes, and all the other stuff I do.
And this core thing has helped.
Yeah, 100%. It started making my range of motion better again.
This gets
everything
stronger, and now it takes more pressure off your back.
And so everything wasn't working as hard back here.
Right.
And so it allowed everything to free back up again. And so I started feeling better. I wasn't worried when I was waking up in the morning. Is today going to be the day?
Right.
And so I just felt better going into this next season again. I was like, everything's starting to move more again. Things are getting back to normal, and I was excited for 2019. And we had a whole new front office kind of switch, and so nobody knew who I was per se. All the new pitching coordinators and everybody, they just saw my stats from last year, which made me worried because
it was one of those Matt Daniels.
Because I was worried from my last outing. It went up to a 4.5. That's not a great year. It's not a terrible year, but it's not a It's not what I need to be with my velo and like what I know I can do. It wasn't what I wanted, and so I was worried that that's what they were going to look at instead of actually who I was as a pitcher, and now being back to normal, that I could actually go out and perform like I know I can. And so I got there, and they actually had me start doing a driveline weighted ball program.
So that's the first time you did driveline stuff.
Yeah,
so this was prescribed to you by the Giants.
Yeah, they gave it to me in November. They called 8 of us in the organization down to Scottsdale and kind of went through the ropes with us of what to do. But we were only there for a week, and we only did each exercise 3 times with them. So
was Matt Daniels there? Do you remember?
He wasn't there at the time. So I just started the weighted ball stuff with the Giants, but they brought us down there for a week, and we only did the exercises 3 times with them. So like I had a vague idea of what I was doing, but I now know that I wasn't doing everything properly. And so like reverse throws, I was doing it the wrong way, and I was banging my elbow like when I would rip it back. And so I remember in December I was playing catch with my cousin Chris, who made it to the bigs. He would do some of them or whatever, but it was just like to warm up. He didn't actually have the full program or anything like that. And I was doing reverse throws, and I was like, oh, damn, I messed something up. My tricep got all, my tricep locked up on me, and it was locked up for the next couple of weeks. And I was like a little worried about it and stuff. And it didn't really loosen up. So I did tell the Giants about it. We got an MRI, and I ended up getting a bone spur from smashing it back there. But I worked through that, and it was fine. I just threw through it, and then now I don't have any problems with it. But I was just disappointed that I did that. Now knowing what I should have been doing with all the throws and everything, like could have been avoided. But anyway, back was feeling better from doing the core, everything. I'm at spring training, and I throw an inning. I'm with the AAA team.
River Cats.
Yeah. Well, but we're not. We're not in. Yeah. But yeah, I'm in the AAA group, and I go and I throw my inning. I think it was like the 8th inning against the Dodgers. And first guy hits a fly ball to right, and then for an out. Next guy, I get a 2-hopper to third, throws him out. Next guy, I have an 0-2 count, and I just tried way too hard to strike him out. Just started throwing bangers in the dirt, everything. Ended up walking him. And then the next guy, first pitch, hits a ground ball to first, takes it himself, done with the inning. And then they were going to start building me back up again. So the next Saturday, I'm supposed to go 2 innings. I show up, and Gabe Alvarez, one of our front office guys, goes, "Hey, Dom." I go, "This isn't good." And calls me into the office before I go eat or anything. And I talk to Kyle Haynes, who was the manager at the time when I was in Salem back in 2015. And he informed me that I was getting released and everything. Told me that I had done great while I was with him, all this stuff. Told me that if there was any way he could help me, that they would. Asked me if I wanted to continue playing. I said yes. So he told me that he would reach out to some people and everything, which I found out that he did, which was nice of them.
Cool.
Yeah. And unfortunately, though, I got released. So I started getting contacted by independent leagues and everything. And there were probably 6 to 8 teams that contacted me, from the Frontier Leagues to the American Association and then the Can-Am. And originally I had no idea about any of them really. So I started doing my own research, trying to find out which one was the best and so forth. Found some stuff about the Atlantic League and then the American Association, both being kind of the best. And then Frontier was kind of younger, but a good league. And
not the Pecos League.
I didn't find much about that. But so I kind of knew I wanted to go more towards the American Association, just wherever the best competition was, because I wanted to play against older guys that with experience. Yeah. So I was supposed to go to the American Association for Sioux Falls, and I called him back, told him that I was ready to commit there and everything and sign a contract. And he goes, okay, let me just talk to the owners and all this stuff. And calls me back and tells me that I should go with one of my other options because apparently the American Association had some lawsuits out with people that had lived in California that played for them 30 years ago or something that were filing lawsuits saying they had bad shoulders and all this stuff, trying to get workers' comp money from them from 30 years ago or whatever. And so he said, so we wouldn't be able to sign a contract till you're here in front of a notary person and all this stuff. And he goes, and just to be honest, like, I think you would be a great fit here. I'd love to have you play for us and everything, but I would just choose another option to be safe and do all this stuff. And he had helped me, like, just telling me about the other leagues and everything, and he seemed like an honest guy. And so I was like, okay, I was disappointed, but I had looked into the Can-Am League, and they were older guys with a couple big leaguers in the league, some AAA guys, and the average age was like 27. So I was like, okay, they're going to know what they're doing up there, and it'll be good competition. So I ended up choosing that route, and I went up to the Trois-Rivières, which is in Quebec, Canada, this last year, and pitched for them, and ended up hurting my elbow a little bit this year, but came back and I threw close to 60 innings with like a 2.3 ERA overall as a starter, and had
a good year.
9+ strikeouts per 9 or something, and
met Tyler Ferguson.
Yeah, and I met, honestly, it was the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. I met a great group of guys. There were guys from the Orioles, there was guys from the Yankees, there was guys from the Rangers. Like, it was a very professional group, not what I was expecting in indie ball, really.
Right.
I didn't expect there to be so many guys from so many organizations actually playing there.
Right.
And so it was a great experience. I just learned a lot. And I met Tyler Ferguson, who was in the room across from me upstairs, which we all became really good friends on the top floor where we lived. And I live only an hour south of Sacramento, and he said he was going to be out here this winter, and asked me if I would like to move in and train at Optimum Athletes. So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely look into that and everything. And then so we flew home, and he brought me up to meet you guys, and then I enjoyed it.
You thought, damn it.
You thought, what the hell am I doing?
And so then we ended up looking for an apartment to rent and everything, and I moved in and then started training with you guys, and
hanging out with Cleo.
Yeah, hanging out with his dog Cleo, and
Yeah.
And now we're here.
now we're here.
So it's been quite the ride.
Yeah,
It's been quite the ride.
And so you had some unfortunate luck this offseason,
yeah,
but you're getting back into it,
yeah,
getting healthy.
yeah. I've definitely saw progress for sure right before I got a little injured and ticked up again.
A little banged up.
Yeah. But just seeing, like, I was up to the hardest I hit with a baseball, I think, was like 94. But I hit 94.6 with the 6 ounce, and I hit over 95 with the 3 ounce and 4 ounce and stuff. So
On the compression.
on the compression throws.
Things
So
are trending upwards.
just seeing those numbers like gave me confidence that I have the ability to throw harder.
Right.
Yeah, and so I've been working with Kime, trying to just get my body to sequence properly because my hips don't fire.
They do a pretty good job of that.
Yeah,
Those kind of guys.
for sure. Because I didn't mention, but I went up to Driveline
That's right.
this winter in the end of 2019 with Tyler.
This
And
place?
yeah, and did the whole mocap and everything to figure out all my numbers on everything. And they told me my hip shoulder separation was very subpar.
Low average.
Yeah. And so that's kind of, I already knew that was something I needed to work on, but now I learned that it was the main focus.
You get in with a PT.
Yeah.
You can actually go like, hey, let's challenge this movement. Let's get the mobility.
Yeah.
That's great. So obviously, going into this year, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But getting ready. But before we end this, I want to kind of go back really quick, touch on this golf thing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So you were playing baseball in high school as well as golf.
Yeah.
And you were the best
Yeah.
player, correct?
I was the number one
Number one.
varsity, yes.
Did you have offers for college for golf?
Actually, Santa Barbara had talked to me for golf prior to baseball and everything.
Wow.
But like, there wasn't a whole bunch of opportunities that had been presented to me for golf. You want me to talk about the long drive?
Was it because your short game wasn't there?
Well, I was a scratch golfer when I was 16 or so. And
What does that mean?
that means you shoot even par basically on average.
You're an average. Yeah, you're an average.
Yeah.
Golfer.
That's good,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's good.
And so, like, I had played golf since I was about 8 years old. And I had been progressively getting better and better. Once you get to 10 handicap and stuff, it's harder to kind of chip away.
Right.
But I had gotten to the point where I was winning tournaments and doing that stuff. And then,
baseball more, dude.
well, I didn't know. So my junior year of high school was when I did the long drive thing, and I didn't know at that time whether I was going to choose golf or baseball.
Okay.
But I just ended up going and playing in golf tournaments that summer.
Right.
And
So were you doing like golf tournaments as far as like actual golf and long drive competitions, or
like, so the long drive, I only did 3 tournaments ever technically. There was the one, and then there were like qualifiers for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did like a little.
You didn't think, I'm probably good at this. Probably, yeah.
Well, I mean, I did, but I went back the next year actually. Not a lot of people know this because I got an exemption into it next year, but I didn't train for it. Like, I didn't do anything for it.
Right.
And I ended up finishing, so I was invited to the 144 contestants from 44 countries. Like, I got an automatic invite to that from finishing runner-up the prior year. So I got there with the 144 contestants, and I ended up finishing 18th, I think. And I got knocked out by a yard in the round. The guy hit it 385, I hit it 384. But I remember talking to I just remember talking to my mom and dad afterwards, and I was like, I didn't enjoy it this year because I didn't prepare. Like,
Right.
I was just playing baseball, and then I kind of came out here and did it.
It wasn't the front of your mind.
Like, the other year, I only trained for it for 3 months, but I was playing golf, and like those 3 months, I really actually went to the driving range 5 times a week and was hitting hundreds of drivers a day
Right.
during those things, and like actually working on speeding it up.
What's that other year you're talking about?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've done the perfect game, which is something not a lot of people have done. I think you also did something that year that not a lot of people have done.
You threw.
I'm not all that familiar with golf, but I don't think there's so many people that can drive the ball 400 yards.
No.
That's really not. That's
Especially
crazy.
when you're 16 years old.
300 yards is like, okay, I've done something cool.
Yeah.
And that's like once every few times. I mean,
Talk
just
a little about that. Like, what was that like being a 16-year-old kid?
I mean, when I was 16, when I was 13, I was hitting it over 300 yards. So like,
that's nuts, dude.
older guys didn't necessarily love playing with me because they were like,
just
this
absolutely outdriving
little kid's blowing it by me. I don't want to play with him. But that was kind of how the whole long drive thing started. I worked at a Diablo Creek golf course down in Concord, and Bob Tomasini, one of the men that works there, just kind of recommended, hey, you hit the ball so far. Why don't you try long drive?
Come to the Waterbury Open. Oh, yeah, great. See you there.
See you there. Gilmore.
Step right up and see if you can out-drive the long driver.
That's you.
But yeah, he just said, why don't you try out for this thing? So that's kind of how the whole thing started. My dad looked up a local qualifier, one in Pleasanton. It was 45 minutes away, went there, hit it 370 or whatever with my normal driver. They were like, finished second, the top 3 qualify for the next round or whatever. So the next round was in Mesquite, Nevada. Okay. So my mom and dad and I drove down to Mesquite, Nevada, and that's where the regional qualifier was, and there was, I don't know, 12 or 13 rounds that I had to work my way through there, and I won all those rounds, and then the last round to see like who got into the world competition, which is the one with 144 contestants. Right. You get 6 balls in 2 minutes and 45 seconds was how the rules were then, and just the farthest ball in the grid counts as your distance or whatever, and then the top people move on. And in that final round, I hit 5 out of my 6 balls in the grid over 400 yards, and my longest one was 436 yards.
What is wrong with you?
So I qualified for the
double how far I drive.
So I qualified for the world tournament or whatever, which was in Mesquite, Nevada. And so then I went back a couple months later, and that's when I ended up working through those 144 contestants, making it all the way to the finals, where I ended up losing to Joe Miller, who was 26 at the time, so he was 10 years older than me. He was 260 pounds. I was 160 pounds, and he was 6'5", and I was 5'10", 5'11".
You're a young kid.
Yeah, and so he was massive, and I was just this little guy just bombing it out there. But he ended up winning the grand prize of 150 grand, and I won 70,000 technically. But I didn't accept it because I didn't know if I was going to go play college golf or not yet, and I would have been a professional golfer. Yeah. So I turned down the 70 grand and didn't get any of it.
How far did you drive in that final round though?
In the final round, I think I only hit it like 380. I looked at my driver after, and I had a hairline crack on the top of it from it being compressed, which I didn't notice obviously while I was hitting. Otherwise, I would have switched drivers. But I noticed it after I was done. I still don't know if I would have beat him. He hit it like 414, I want to say, in that final round, and it was colder and it was dark, so he nutted one for sure. But
What? The video that's on YouTube, what is that? What round is that?
That's the top 8, so there's 8 people left in the world.
And that's when you hit 4.
That's 404, yeah. 404.
Just had a 15 strikeout game this summer, bringing left-handed heat. If you're a left-hander that can throw hard, there's some future out there for him.
ESPN Ball Track. He's losing a bit to the right. Again, one of his hands came off the club that time. That gets a good kick. Look at this bounce! He's over 400! The 16-year-old. That ball just stayed in the air forever. Took a fortuitous hop to the left over the 400 marker. What a night.
My furthest, 436 in the whole thing of the competition, yeah.
Is that anywhere?
I don't believe so, because it wasn't televised at that point. Yeah.
That'd be sick.
404, 16.
Yeah.
All right, so my final question about that is, being a lefty pitcher and a righty golfer.
Well, it just helps me rotate really well. Strong front side. That's my answer.
Okay, and then one more thing is kind of going back to baseball, shifting gears. We kind of talked that you kind of believed that if you had never messed up your back with that deadlift, that you might still be pitching Double-A, maybe even Triple-A.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I am confident in my ability to get outs. And
you've proven it over and over, especially when you're healthy.
Yeah. And
you
so
get outs when you're hurt, so.
Yeah. And so obviously they could have still gotten rid of me and wanted to make room for other people. I just feel that if I would have proven better numbers and stuff, they would have given me more of a chance and maybe put me in the bullpen or something like that, because I had been in the bullpen in college and stuff.
Right.
And because I can get lefties and righties out. And now with new rules being made in Major League Baseball, like that's going to be a necessity. Yeah, and so
What?
I just feel.
Is that a rule?
You haven't seen that?
I don't watch baseball.
Both guys have face 3 hitters when they come in now.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so I do feel that I might have been given more of an opportunity for sure.
So when you had that great year last year,
Yeah.
what do you say, 2-3 ERA in the
Yeah.
game out, throwing 60, 70 innings. Did you get any interest from major league teams or organizations or any tryouts or anything like that?
So I got an invitation I actually got traded to the American Association this offseason up in Winnipeg still. It's still up in Canada. But the hitting coach there, his name's Cash Beecham, and he's the head indie ball scout for the Diamondbacks. Mm-hmm. And so like he looked at my numbers and stuff, and we talked on the phone, and he gave me an invitation to their workout, which was at the end of February down in Arizona, which I would have gone to if I wouldn't have gotten banged up a little. Yeah.
Right. So hey, there's still interest, obviously.
Yeah.
Go out and shove and.
Yeah, and he's
get
gonna.
you healthy.
Well, that's the thing. He'll be there. He's the hitting coach of my team, so he'll see me pitch this year for sure.
So we'll get you healthy and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
All right, man. Steve, you got anything else?
No, dude. That's a hell of a story. I learned more than I even knew about you. That's crazy.
Yeah. You got a very interesting past and an even better future.
Thanks.
Yo, keep working, dog.
Hey,
Let's
thanks
get
for
it.
coming on, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Good shit.